Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to RaceFace.Pro GT3 Sprint Series, the final round 4 here at Zolder. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box is not Cameron Bastos this time, but we have got a special guest returning to the world of commentary for those who have been watching sim racing F1 here in South Africa and are very familiar with a certain esports that likes to bleed green. Well, we got Tristan Herbst in the commentary. Tristan, glad to have you here. Welcome to RaceFace.Pro GT3 Sprint Series on iRacing, and it is going to be a absolutely killer time.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's an absolute pleasure to join all of these fantastic races, especially finalizing the season onto the final round in Zolder. A brilliant track, technical, lots of skill needed. We got loads of fast guys in here rounding up for the final race, and boy, I can already see from some of the previous races I've watched, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be an absolute blinder. But let's take a look at our championship while qualifying is underway, because this is where everyone's starting to keep an eye out for. And starting off with our pros, though, Jason Coetzee on 269 points, Daniel Demetrios Petro on 258. He has been the dark horse throughout the championship. First season in iRacing, competing in a league, and he has got it right to the top, moving over from Assetto Corsa Competizione. Noah Hendricks in third, Luke Lucchesi in fourth, Julian Familiaris, Mark Heron, Jan Sparmers, Werner Swart, Yuri Umpi Swart, and Willem Botha in that top 10 for our pro. Moving on to our Pro-Am, though, we have got Fani Gravenstein, Doug Herber, Jean from Janssen van Rensburg. We've got Yasin Ismail, Etienne Swart, Stephen Cakebread, Peter van der Spey, the captain, going and having a bit of fun. Hilton Nixon, Stefan Kutzer, along with Robbie Teens in our Pro-Am. And moving on to our Am for tonight, it's Yippie Simons in first place with Paul Weber, Venot Kursop, Willem Pinard, Duncan Roderick, Arno Kraus, Mandalozi Gabashi, and Savesh Basson jumping into the commentary, getting into the fun there. But, I mean, it is wild. It is going to be great. It's going to be a monumental run. But what everyone wants to hear is obviously the sights and sounds of the racing that we're going to be having at hand. But I've got to say, I'm really, really looking forward to seeing who can climb up to the top of the ladder come qualifying. At the moment, it seems to be Yuri Umpi Swart up in first place, 128.12 around the circuit, getting chased down by Luke Lucchesi, 0.19 of a second. I mean, this is close, Tristan.
This is absolutely close. I mean, as you said it, Yuri Umpi Swart actually went ahead and set even faster, 128 flat now from him. And the top of the pack is really, really close. I mean, Luke Lucchesi is 0.1 away from Yuri Umpi Swart. So, as you mentioned, super tight competition. Everyone is going to be trying to race for those final few points coming into the season. I mean, you guys saw the standings. I mean, the top first and second are really not too far apart. So, I mean, it could potentially be somewhat of a championship title decider this race.
Oh, that's it. And should we give the big news that we heard in driver's briefing, that the winner is going to score some prize? Justin, do you think we should give that bit of news out to all our lucky viewers that are currently watching?
I don't know, man. I mean, it might be a good thing to release it now. I mean, maybe we make them hold out until the end, watch some of the action first, and then drop some news.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's a bit of a toss-up. I don't know. I'm feeling excited about it. I'm currently chomping at the bit about it because... Ooh, flip a coin, flip a coin. Tristan, left hand or right hand? You got to pick one.
Okay, let's go. Left hand.
Left hand. Okay, well, left hand says that we're going to tell the crowd. Let's let the crowd know. Winner of the Pro will get 4,000 Rand hard cash given to them. Pro-Am, same thing. 4,000 Rand cash by SimuWorks Technologies. I mean, that is just absolutely tremendous stuff. And in the world of sim racing where cash is king, to get some very, very important parts for your sim racing rig, I've got to say, if I wasn't sitting here in the commentary box, and I think, Tristan, you would be agreeing with me, we would be out there competing because, well, when you start going and throwing a bit of hard cash on the line, you got some amazing GT3 action, you got some amazing drivers putting in all the hard work, up and down
100%.
through the field. It's going to be great.
100%, I agree. I mean, and you have to see how times have evolved. I mean, sim racing, imagine it. We're doing a GT3 championship here. Tonight, someone walks away. Actually, 3 people walk away with a load of money in their pocket. I mean, to think of it, 4,000 Rand. I mean, Steven mentioned it. What can that do to upgrade, to potentially increase performance? I mean, that can easily be somewhat of an upgrade to a rig to better the next season. I mean, the limitations are completely out of the window here, Steven.
Or to go and give it to the partner as a thank you for putting up with the sim racing, because we tend to make a lot of noise. But qualifying is over and done with, and let's go down to the grid because it's going to get wild. So starting out in first place, Yuri Swart will be lining up against Luke Lucchese, his long-term rival, looking to battle out against one another. Troy Dolanchik, Jason Coetzee, Julian Familiaris, Werner Swart, Luka Logovic going all the way out from Power Wheels Racing, and outside of South Africa, Willem Botha in 8th position. Moving further down, oh, a little bit too far ahead there, Tim. Moving further down, we have got Yasemai, John Janssen van Rensburg. Going a little bit further down, Stephen Kutzer, Malcolm Pringle, who's getting a lot of cheering out there. Jans Bombers, Noah Hendricks, a little bit further down than he planned. Raymond Duggan, Mahath Musa, along with Robbie Teens, Greg van Niekerk, Mark Heron, Fanny Gravestein, Yuppie Simons, Doug Herbert, Etienne Swart, Stephen Cakebread, along with Kabila Matsumai, Manalozi Gabashi, Paul Weber, along with Willem Pinot, Roland Ferreira, Vena Kursop, further down, Quinton Costa, Paul Nadir, and Paul Herbert, Daniel Demartros Petro, Ryan van Veek running in 35th position. 35 cars lining up on the grid to go and battle it out, and this is going to be a close one. Lots of drivers. This is going to be a proper run. The eyes are all going to be towards the front, though. Yuri Swart, along with the likes of Luke Lucchese. It is a full lap behind the safety car to get some heat into those tires and heat into those brakes.
100%. These drivers have got to be prepped. It's the final race. We cannot be making mistakes here, guys. I mean, like we mentioned, so much money on the line. And someone actually putting in the comment sections, 4,000 Rand. Did you guys rob an APSA? No, that's not actually an APSA that's been robbed. That's just thanks to the amazing sponsors who have sponsored the GT3 series here at RaceFace. But yeah, as Steven mentioned, we're going to be going hard onto the formation lap. Drivers are going to be wanting those brakes nice and warm, same as the front and rear tires, because once those lights are out, there's no looking back.
It's going to be an incredible one, and our members out there in the virtual grandstands is really exciting. I mean, Norman Lewis going to say, go Malcolm, and go Jean, along with Steven. Go Slowpoke getting out there. Also, Rory Pringle saying, go Malcolm Pringle, getting a bit of support out there. The really bad gamer guy going and supporting the likes of Slowpoke Racing. I mean, this is just incredible stuff to see the amount of interest and see the spectators out there. Tristan, you come from the world of Formula One esports. You go and you've commentated on it, and looking over to the grandstands, looking over to our virtual grandstands, seeing the people excited, wanting to be a part of this, looking over to our monumental field that has got real life drivers, it's got sim racers, we've got experience on both ends of the field from pro to pro-am, all out on the track, going for the final time. This must be quite a sight for your first time seeing the racing.
100%. I mean, it's quite an astonishing thing to see the amount of spectatorship and support. I mean, this isn't even a real life event. You know, people are sitting on their computers and actually dedicating their time to come and watch these guys put in the time and the effort to potentially try and win a championship, provide the entertainment and provide the amazing racing that we see here at RaceFace. So it's quite a phenomenal thing to see. I mean, I didn't really get to see it much in the F1, but like you mentioned, the virtual grandstand is absolutely buzzing tonight. We've got people supporting family, we've got people supporting drivers. It's going to be a phenomenal race. We hope it keeps clean, and drivers are going on the formation lap now, and we should be seeing some hard racing real soon.
Yeah, well, this is it. Safety car will start to break away. Our drivers have been told they have to maintain and get ready to get going. I'm going to put this out here. For anyone watching, nerves are at the absolute peak. The drivers are getting nervous. I'm getting physically nervous. I'm bouncing around. This is going to be exciting stuff right to the end. Championship points are right on top of one another. We are getting towards the end, right in the camera shot. We got 2 corners to go before our lights will go green. Tim will be on comms to say green lights go, and well, Jim will be saying that. Tim will be going and giving us all the camera shots we hear tonight. Tristan out on the comms as a guest commentator, and who knows, going forward, going to be back in at full time. But we're around the final corner, we're getting ready to go, lights on, wait, hold throttle, green, and we are racing. Yuri Swart trying to break off a line with Luke Lucchesi immediately on the back of him, and it is a swamp down into turn 1. Looking at 3 wide as Troy Dolenchik tries to put his nose in. He gets closed up with Jason Coetzee immediately onto the back of him. Trying to make up a bit of ground, but it looks like one of the RDSA drivers, unfortunately, not making the corner. Luke Lucchesi getting stuck on the inside. He has to now try and battle his way through. Loses out to Troy Dolenchik, but that is giving the gap to Yuri Swart. And you can see Jason Coetzee immediately onto the back of him. The top 4 trying to break away from the field. Julian Familiaris, who is running in 5th place, has got Luca all over the back of him. But beautiful stream coming down, heading into the first chicane though. This is going to make it rather tricky. A little bit of bouncing around as the cars get a little bit unsettled. Yuri Swart trying to make his way through, defending on the inside, forces Troy Dolenchik to try and make his way through, backing out of the run as first and second now starting to open up a bit of a gap to 3rd place on the opening lap.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. The competition is going crazy right now. I mean, you're seeing sand being thrown up, rubber going around, people taking random lines to try and get past. The first lap is a pinnacle point of trying to make up a couple of positions before the grid starts to separate a bit. And I mean, we saw that first lap. Some of the guys going off into the sand traps. Some of the guys scraping up a bit of sand, trying to keep on track, but keep up the speed to try and stay ahead and try and, you know, maintain the positions as people are starting to slowly pull away, get into the groove as the lights have gone out. And I mean, you're already starting to see it. People are starting to pull away. But I mean, Yuri Swart with Troy Dolenchik right behind him, they're not going to give an easy fight here. Luke Lucchesi also, losing a little bit of grip there on the corner. I mean, that just shows the amount of competition here. It's final race, and people are really trying to put as much as they can in. Jason Coetzee taking 3rd place now from Luke Lucchesi. He's going to really want to try and redeem back from that.
That's Julian Familiaris looking to put a bit of pressure on him, but he's pulling Luca along, and Werner Swart also coming into play now. Looks to try and bring the gap a little bit closer. So interesting stuff as the field starts to draw a little bit closer. Werner Swart running in 7th. Yasamai immediately onto the back of him. He's running in 8th place. First of our Pro-Am, so is Van Rensburg, who is giving the on to the back of him, trying to get a little bit of ground. So this is going to be very, very close between them. Jan Sparmers immediately under braking, trying to make up some ground. Noah Hendricks into the fray of things. Raymond Duggan lying at 13th. 14th is Mark Heron. Robbie Teens, Mahayath Musa, Greg van Niekerk immediately onto the back of him. Yuppie Simons, first of our AM classes, into the fray, trying to move his way around the inside of Greg van Niekerk. He's going to get it under braking. That Porsche is absolutely mental on the brakes, but will lose out on the long drive. Finally, Gravenstein, Stephen Cakebread, followed by Doug Herber, Willem Buerter, Etienne Swart, Veynon Kersop losing out to Paul Herber, who's trying to make up some ground. He had a qualifying ban, so had to start at the back. He does give a little bit of a run. Veynon Kersop has got a bit of damage to the shop in that nose. Cabello Matsamai making up his time through the field. He's also starting a little bit further down than planned.
Yeah, so some of these drivers having a little bit of an unexpected start to the race, like you mentioned, some of them not being able to actually do qualifying, it changes up the race strategy completely, you know, having to start from the back, maybe try and fight your way through some of the slower drivers if you are trying to compete at the top there. But I mean, as you can see, things are starting to get a little bit pressurizing. I mean, we saw that one Porsche already with a couple of damage, a couple of parts missing on the front of that car, so he's already been through the scraps with someone. And I mean, we're seeing teammates wanting to actually fight each other here. It's coming down to the final parts of the season. That teammate that you may have called a teammate for the past 3 or 4 rounds, you know, it might have been a great relationship, but I mean, this is now or never. This is now the fight for whatever it may be, whether they're in Pro, whether they're in Pro-Am or Am. There is prizes on the line for all 3 divisions, so there's no slowing down now. And I mean, it's constant. There's people constantly trying to dive bomb each other. There's no stopping here, Stephen.
I've got to say, it's going to be a great one. Yeah, Samai, who runs out wide, immediately has Jan van Rensburg trying to go up on the inside. He's pulling his teammate along as Steven Kutzer's looking to put his nose in. Side by side they go. Who's going to be later on the brakes? And it does look like Yaz has got the run. Does have a little bit of an argy-bargy moment. Van Rensburg not backing out of it. Van Rensburg, coming from the world of oval racing, real life, is no stranger to sharing a bit of paint. Yaz Samai, who comes from sim racing, knows how to get into the fight and tussle along. Steven Kutzer, though, gets a poor exit. Jan Sparmers lines up onto the side of him. Immediately, the two of them go blow for blow. But Noah Hendricks trying to put his nose in to gain a bit of ground. So it has been absolutely tremendous stuff. But Tristan, you're a team owner. You are well aware of the team dynamics that's needed. When you see teammates having a good scrap with one another and knowing what's on the cards, I think you're the best person to say, well, what do you do now? Because I know we see in the world of Formula One where it's, okay, guys, behave, you know, to think about the long game here, but for sim racing,
yeah, it could be completely different in the world of sim racing. I mean, obviously, teamwork is a vital part of sim racing, especially in your earlier parts of the season, Stephen. But as I mentioned earlier, this is now or never. This is the final part of the season, and now it comes down to who has gathered the most amount of points. So as a team owner, you know, you have to collect those kind of those small bits of information. Who is actually in the lead coming into the final round? Who would benefit greater from taking a position from their teammate? And it's such a hard call to make from anyone. I mean, you even see it in real life Formula One. Past weekend, McLaren having a little bit of a fight with their 2 drivers over something like that. It happens everywhere. Whether it's a sim racing motorsport, real life motorsport, it happens, and it just has to be managed. So teamwork is vital, but in the end, it comes down to who is leading into that final race, who will take the most points, and who will benefit and possibly win some of the prizes against potential rivals.
It's going to be an incredible one, and we've got quite a few people. Productive Panda, also part of the Pandacity team, knows it all too well when you have got this condition of, well, what are the drivers going to do? One thing we've got to point out, though, with the racing is they do have a pit stop that will be enforced, and that is purely because you're going to run out of fuel if you do not go for the pit stop. So mandatory pit stop comes into play. That's a strategy game. We got 2 heats that's going to be happening in the run. So we got Heat 1 that we're currently watching. We got Heat 2 that will be coming up later tonight, and you don't want to miss that. Remember, the points is going to be very, very interesting because first place in Heat 1 for each class gets 57 points, which is incredible. Then Heat 2, you also get 57 points. So you walking away, I got bad math, but it would be 117 points if you can get the win in your class, which will ensure that you lock down the championship. And considering this is the last round of Season 1, the RaceFace iRacing GT3 Sprint Series, I got to specify that because we do have a GT3 Series on ACC that's running tomorrow night, but man, oh man, it just heats up. It's great. Paul Gerber going and feeling the pressure. He's trying to make up some ground, getting past a couple of our back markers on the way through. That is the number 26, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's the Porsche that just went by. 28 that they just went by. That's Paul Webber, who unfortunately was in the pits. And we do have Raymond Duggan that has gone off the circuit. Let's go back into a replay and see what happened there. Raymond Duggan, oh, he looks like he had a...
friends with the sand trap.
Yeah, and it looks like he may have met friends with the likes of well, one of the slowpoke cars. That might have been the big Mercedes that's got caught out there. So, Jean van Rensburg is there, but his teammate is no longer into the running there. So I think, unfortunately, Kutza, who is in the pits, unfortunately, oh, there he is. No, he's got some damage on that car. He's battling to bring it back. So I think he had a bit of a run with a Chevy, and unfortunately, the Chevy went to the levee, and the levee was dry.
And that's so unfortunate. You can see that Mercedes struggling to limp it back to the pits. He said definitely got some form of suspension damage. But now again, as we're talking about teamwork, it's all on the main member of the team, Steven Kutzer, now completely losing out in Heat 1 over here, all the way at the back, having to go into the pits to try and get a couple of repairs done. But thankfully, as you mentioned, Steven, the points are quite outrageous. I mean, 57 points, as you mentioned, for first place in each heat. We saw in the beginning of the stream, the points are really not that far off for some of our top runners. So, I mean, the difference between Heat 1 and Heat 2, if you can nail it both first and second, you got yourself some really good points for the final round, and could potentially actually boost you up 1 or 2 places, depending on some of the guys ahead of you. But in my opinion, having 2 heats is a way more competitive way of racing. I mean, you allow drivers to have a little bit of a reset the mindset. You know, if they've blown off a little bit of frustration from the first race, they're allowed to bring it back in that Heat 2, potentially bring it back, pull out a couple of better places compared to Heat 1, and in my opinion, it can allow for a little bit more tighter racing.
Well, it does change the dynamics up quite a bit, and I've got to say, sprint racing does lead to that. It allows you to give it everything you got, and then you can adjust your car's setup, because this is an open series compared to our RF4s that race next week. They will be going and having a bit of a tough time out there because it is a fixed series, means everyone's equal and it's down to pure driver skill, where this allows a little bit more leniency in terms of how much fuel are you going to take, what's your setup going to allow you, and how are you going to push those tires. You've got 30 minutes to get that stop done and dusted. But another problem coming in, Mahath Musa running into yellow flag situation. So let's go back to Mahath Musa in the big BMW, doing all well, trying to gain for a pass. Does he lose it under braking? No, he just goes straight into pit. So Mahath Musa gets it into pit lane, and now we'll be doing his his stop to get it out of the way. So did see yellow flags, but that is because, well, Zandvoort leads to some of the most interesting pit stops in the world with that incredibly fast entry, and unfortunately you and I have both seen guys get it a little bit wrong once, twice, 3 times more.
Definitely. I mean, going straight ahead into a pit lane stop compared to turning left into continue for the tracking, it confuse some drivers, especially when you're chasing for points and then the driver ahead dives into the pits. It can cause a lot of confusion, and a lock in the rear could seriously cause a bit of an incident there. But I mean, just under 20 minutes left of Heat 1 over here. Things are going to start closing up a little bit now as time is starting to fade away. People are going to have to start making up a couple of positions if they have dropped some. I mean, we're seeing the Porsche of John Spammers here and the Ferrari behind him. 20 minutes now. I mean, potentially to make an overtake and gain a position. That's added points going into Heat 2, which could potentially up him in the championship. So it's all down to 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes now, 18 minutes less in the race.
Yeah, well, Yasamai in the Porsche, and then Jan Spalmers, who is looking up on the inside. Jan Spalmers is going to try get the advantage here. Yaz is going to give him the gap, allow the Ferrari to go through, and look for a cutback, possibly into turn 2. No, he's going to keep it behind. So he's allowing Jan Spalmers to pull the pace a little bit, saying, listen, you're going to work it forward for me. I'm going to pull along, conserve my tires at this point. That has taken a bit of a beating on the way through. So Jan Spalmers got the game past Yasamai. And then we have got Noah Hendricks, who is closing down. He will be going and getting a radio in from his teammate Yasamai, saying, hey, listen, what's going on? What do I need to do? Mark Heron, also part of the asymmetric team, going and bouncing that BMW incredibly high. Well, if you want to test your suspension, that's the way to do it. Robbie Teens going and fighting it out with Willem Buerta right behind him. So Robbie Teens in the Ferrari, part of our Pro-Am class, is dealing with Willem Buerta at the moment, who is giving it everything he's got in the Pro class. So that's one thing we got to also talk about is fighting with someone that isn't in your class. Is it worth it, or is it worth going and just trying to keep it all together and race for overall victory? I mean, bragging rights versus, well, being smart. I would go for the bragging rights, to be honest, because you're going to say to your mates, hey, listen, you owe me a Coke because I got you for the final round here at RaceFace.Pro for the GT3 iRacing Sprint Series.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Sometimes you have to try and make those split like last-minute decisions. The driver in front might be in a completely different class, but I mean, sometimes you also have to look a little bit up-grid and see that some people in the same class as you are not too far ahead. And, you know, sometimes it might be worth burning the tires a little bit more, burning a little bit more extra fuel, pushing that accelerate pedal a little bit harder to try and chase. I mean, as we mentioned, this is the final round. This is the final Heat 1 of this season. So, I mean, you know, there is no... okay, no, let's save it, let's try and preserve. There's none of that. There is a push now, and there's a push to try and get those final few points, and that's what the mindset is clocked for some of these drivers. And I mean, we saw a couple of the team plays earlier from the asymmetric. I mean, there was about 3 or 4 of them in one queue, and that's a lot of positions that could potentially change the outcome of a race, you know?
Well, it's always a tricky one as we jump back up to our top 3, and Jason Coetzee along with Troy Dolenchik all over the back of one another. Troy Dolenchik running in second place is starting to open up a gap to Jason Coetzee, but it does look like the Chev is starting to come into its element and getting closer and closer to the Porsche, which is not, oh, it's not looking so great on corner exits, getting a little bit squirrely out there, and it's going to make life a little bit more tricky. So Troy Dolenchik's going to be weighing up the odds here. Yuri Swart, though, has blasted off into the lead and has run away from the rest of the field. So he's hoping to keep a good pace up at the front. But Yuri Swart, I do want to point out, is not in the championship fight. It's actually Jason Coetzee, Daniel Demetrios Petro, and Noah Hendricks. Jason Coetzee, who's currently third, is well enough ahead of Noah Hendricks and well enough ahead of Daniel Demetrios Petro.
Yeah, so I mean, like you mentioned, Jason Coetzee currently far ahead of the other 2 people that he's currently fighting with for the championship. So for Heat 1, he kind of just needs to hold place, keep the car clean, keep the car stable, no damage needed. I mean, you know, the place in front, again, might be for bragging rights, but I mean, we're going back to a replay now. Someone going off.
This is Kabelo Matsumai, who had pulled into the pit, so he's getting a pit stop done and dusted. And another one coming up that also looks to be a pit stop. This is Daniel Demetrios Petro, and it looks like he also second-guessed losing out a little bit of time, goes into the pits, very, very close into the pit lane. I mean, this is one thing to keep an eye out for. Drivers starting to do the last-minute pits for the last half of Heat 1, and there's side-by-side action. Jason Coetzee's got the run on Troy Dolenchik, who's stuck on the outside now. Not where you want to put the Porsche. Does bring it back, but Jason going and showing his cards there, putting his nose in and saying, hey, listen, I'm going to get past you whether you like it or not, and forcing the Porsche to burn more of its tires, forcing a little bit of an unhappy situation as they were getting past one of the back markers.
But I mean, incredible skill there displayed by Troy Dolenchik. I mean, holding that Porsche so stable on the outside, you know, nowhere near racing line, loads of debris on the outside parts of that track there, and still maintaining his position. But as you mentioned, Jason Coetzee, I mean, not fighting Troy Dolenchik for points in the championship, but to him, like you mentioned, Stephen, bragging rights are one thing. So getting second place could potentially, you know, boost the ego a bit, help a little bit to, you know, feel a bit more confident going into Heat 2. So he's going to tell Troy Dolenchik, you know, I don't care if I'm not fighting you in championship, I'm fighting you on track, and I'm going to make sure I get that position before the end of the heat race.
Well, that is the main thing, and it's absolutely tremendous stuff. So, for our class positioning as it stands, Yuri Swart and Jens van Rensburg for the Pro-Am is currently having a good time, and Simons running in third, as all of our top runners are now pulling into the pits, so they're getting it done and dusted. 6th place into the pits. Is Luca going to dive into the pits, or is he going to keep going an extra lap? He's going to keep going. Jens van Rensburg gets into the pits. Jan Sparmers is going to continue out. So we've got 2 cars that are going to go long. Noah Hendricks is going to go long. Oh, we have got contact. That is Yaz Samai, and looks to be Willem Buerta have had contact with one another. So Yasamai turned round into the final chicane. Willem Botha, I think, was going for an inside pass, and unfortunately that did not end well for the both of them, getting turned round and landing up with a bit of a problem. Let's see if we can go to a bit of a look at what happened. That is, unfortunately, yes, Willem Botha trying to go for it, but didn't quite work out to plan. So we just missed what happened there.
Well, I mean, thankfully, pit lane entry being right at the scene of the incident. So, I mean, a little bit of damage, it seems, there on Willem Botha's car. So he decided to pull in, get the pit stop done. Yeah, so Yasamai unfortunately getting spun around there in final corner. Let's hope he wasn't trying to go for the pit stop, because it seems like he was sent a little bit too far to try and dive back in. He would have had to drive backwards. So now it really comes down to what is more powerful, the undercut or the overcut. I mean, we saw some of the drivers earlier on in the heat trying to get their pit stops done early and quick, trying to get a little bit more clean air, to get a bit more fluent racing in. And then, like as we saw last lap, all of the top runners coming into pit at once, getting that pit stop done, trying to keep competitive with each other and keep their top positions up. So now it's going to be, will that pit stop strategy work, or will the undercutters come in and play a bit of a factor coming into the final few minutes of this heat?
Well, Luka Logovic currently leading out the charge, and for Power Wheels Racing, he is having a fun time out there. Jan Sparmers, Noah Hendricks, Mark Heron all pulling into the pits. That is going to allow the likes of Yuri Umpiswat to carry on and get into second place. Interesting enough that Luke is able to get an extra lap or two over the rest of the field. So he is definitely protecting his tires and also monitoring his fuel really, really well to be able to get that 1 or 2 extra laps. I don't think he will be able to hold his positioning though. Looking at the lap times, he's running his best lap time was a 129.3. Last lap time was a 130.4. Rest of the field starting to get back into the swing of 159s, 159s, 158. So Luca, who runs close to 2 minutes, is going to be thinking, what is he going to have to do to ensure he stays within the top 5, I would suggest, as the top running there. Troy Dolanchik trying to make his way around. Werner Swart trying to close down the gap to him. He's running in 7th place. Jan Sparmers running in 8th. And Jens van Rensburg running in 9th. Noah Hendricks into that top 10, chasing him down all the way through. This is stressful times as we now down into the final 9 minutes of this race. And it's all or nothing to maximize points that can either give you a chance to win 4,000 Rand for our Pro and Pro-Am, or it's going to be the make or break where you lose that 4,000 Rand. I mean, yeah, added tensions there, much, little bit too much. I would have to say, honestly, if there was a team captain that's talking in my ear, I would like him to start singing, or him or her singing Soft Kitty, Warm Kitty, Little Purr. Just something to settle me down at this point.
The pressure must be absolutely immense now. I mean, like you mentioned, we're coming into the final 8 minutes now, and positions are starting to become a little bit more scarce. People are going to try and fight to the end of the line because these points are going to be super, super necessary to try and bring a couple more positions back. And like you mentioned, it could be a make or break for 4,000 Rand. I mean, imagine not expecting it and then next thing, end of Heat 2, congratulations, you won 4,000 Rand. That's the difference that Heat 1 and Heat 2 can make tonight. And I mean, we see it even with like someone like our Pro-Am driver leading currently, Johan van Rensburg, way ahead of the pack of the rest of the Pro-Am drivers currently, which is a great thing to see. But currently watching Jopi Simons in the Team Delta Motorsports Porsche with another car right behind him, the Corvette chasing, and we noticed like with GT3 specifically, there's very big differences in some of these cars. Some of them have got great braking like the Porsche, and then some of them have got a little bit better top line speed like the Corvette. So it's really all dependent on how you manage the car through these corners and how you manage those tires.
Now it's going to be an epic one. Doug Herber for Team Tryhard Racing Orange trying to close down on Yuppie Simons. 2 different classes that are fighting against one another, but 2 very fierce competitors. And I mean, this is one of our closest battles out on track, as it seems like the front has calmed down a little bit because we have had another change up for position. Julian Familiaris trying to make up some ground. He's lying in 4th place, but Yurion Piswat out in 1st place. Jason Kutsi miles back from him at this point. 4 seconds back. Then you got Luke Lucchesi running in third. Julian Familiaris in fourth. Troy Dolenchik trying to make up some time. He's in fifth. Werner Swartz in sixth. Seventh, Luka Logovic, who's gone that little bit further. He's dropped out of the top 5. He's in 7th place, though. That has hoped to make up the time. Jan Sparmers, Jean van Rensburg, and Noah Hendricks. But yellow flags kicking up for Cabello Matsumai. Once again, not having too much of a fun time out there. So what happened to the big Mercedes? So Cabello Matsumai on the turn in. Oh, the rear just stepping out.
That's exactly how I mentioned with driving style. Every car is taken differently. I mean, the Mercedes being a super heavy front engine car, that rear end can become extremely playful if you don't manage your traction correctly. And we saw that there as a prime example. So on board now with Noah Hendricks, I believe, Stephen, you said that he is currently in the top 3 standings for the championship tonight. So not the greatest result from him for now. In Heat 1 as we look to him down in 10th place, but he could possibly bring some form of a comeback going into Heat 2.
Well, this is the thing. It's not over until the fat lady sings, and when she's done, walked off stage, signed a couple of autographs, and gone to bed. That is what we know of the world of motorsport. And I mean, you've seen it from your time in commentary, and also you participating in racing as well. For anyone that doesn't know, Tristan, he has done quite a bit. But we do have yellow flags, big ones coming up. Luke Lucchesi running into a bit of a problem as he goes, into the back of Quinton. Quinton Costa gets a knock. He was trying to brake and slow down for just getting around pit lane, and Luke Lucchesi did not anticipate how close that was going to be, both landing up with some damage. Quinton with some severe rear suspension damage, and Luke Lucchesi for a race going from bad to worse. I mean, this is a driver that was up in 2nd place at the start of the race, now all the way down with severe damage, will be starting at the back. Not ideal circumstances, not good for the championship. He was running in 4th in the championship with Julian Familiaris in 5th with only 20, well, I'd say 19 points separating them. Julian Familiaris has an opportunity to go and gain some ground at the moment.
So Julian Familiaris now, as you mentioned, 17 points behind. And I mean, the point system for Heat 1 and 2 is ridiculous in terms of something like what happened to Luke Lucchesi now can absolutely make or break his position in the championship. And Stephen, I got to tell you, I know exactly what that was. That's definitely the sweat starting to pour down the eyebrows. The pressure is getting to these drivers as it comes down to the final 4 minutes of Heat 1. Luke Lucchesi just unfortunately, a bit of a miscommunication between those two drivers led to a massive rear-ended accident, and it's an unfortunate thing to see. But on board with Julian Familiaris, as we're speaking about him, the Duran Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan currently got lots of pressure from Troy Dolenchek behind him, who wants the position back that he lost. Troy Dolenchek, I believe, was in 3rd, maybe even higher near the beginning of the race. So, I mean, on board, you can see this is close. He can't even see the corner coming up ahead of him. He's got to look to the inside to try and see where he's got to brake, where he's got to determine where this Lamborghini is going to go. Can he mount the curb to try and get around? It's a close one. I mean, it might even be a position coming into the next corner. He looks up the inside, and no, he's going to have to back out. The Lamborghini goes defensive.
It's just so close between and Troy Dolenchek trying everything he can to just hunt down the back of that Lamborghini of Julian Familiaris. The times, I mean, take a look at the sectors. Dolenchek was actually up in Sector 1 and Sector 2, down in Sector 3 compared to Familiaris. This is a fight for 3rd overall and 3rd in class, so this is going to be a monumental run. How is Sector 4 going to look like when they come across Sector 4? It does look like Dolenchek a little bit slower this time round. Julian Familiaris getting a run. These two know each other from Formula 1600 in terms of real racing. They have done battles in sim racing throughout the years, and now it's come down to those two young guns giving it a shot for the final Heat 1 for the final round of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Sprint Series here on iRacing, and it is just all or nothing right to the end. Yuri Swart, though, checked out of the fight with Jason Coetzee, who's keeping it together, maintaining his gap at the moment, but 3rd place is a wide open cards right now for any of the drivers to battle their way through. Who's going to be able to gain that advantage heading into Heat 2 is going to be monumental. But I do want to point out that come Heat 2, we're going to switch things up. We're going to reverse our top 5. So Yuri Swart, who at this point will look to win the Heat 1, will be starting in 5th with Werner Swart, who will start in 1st place if it all stays as it stands. For the likes of Troy Dolenchik and Julian Familiaris, well, Julian Familiaris will be stuck in 3rd place come Heat 2, while Dolenchik will get the advantage in Heat 2. So there's another little aspect that the drivers are going to be thinking about of how to gain that little bit more of an advantage, as it's still very, very close, battling their way through. Final lap, though, as our drivers look to really give it everything that they got right to the line. All eyes look to the front, though. Yuri Swart breaking away. Jason Coetzee chasing down in 2nd place. Julian Familiaris and Troy Dolenchik right on top of the back of one another. Werner Swart followed by Luka Logovic, who's gone up 1 position. Jan Sparmers sitting in 7th, along with John van Rensburg in 8th. Noah Hendricks sitting in 9th. Mark Heron starting, currently in 10th, with Mahath Musa running in 11th position. The ASMI in 12th. Greg van Niekerk, Jippie Simons, Doug Gerber, Paul Gerber, Stephen Kakebreg, Farney Kravenstein, Etienne Swart, and Willem Buerta is our top 20. Still looking to give it everything that they got till the end. Tristan, I mean, this is close running right the way through, but what a stellar run has it been for Yuri Swart.
100%. I mean, Yuri Swart from the start has been an incredible racer that we've seen tonight. I mean, 5.6 seconds lead currently from Jason Coetzee. It's a phenomenal lead that you can already see. I mean, in a 30-minute race to already gap someone by 6 seconds almost. He's had a phenomenal drive, kept it clean, kept it strong, and he is going to come across the line, taking the victory for Heat 1, but now he has to bear in mind that Heat 2, he will be starting in 5th place, but I mean, if he races the same as he raced now, he should be good. Who comes down into 2nd, so Jason Coetzee takes 2nd, but now for 3rd place, Troy Dolenchik, only 3/10 behind the Lamborghini of Julian Familiaris, but Julian takes the 3rd place straight from Troy Dolenchik. So that means that Troy Dolenchik will take 2nd place in Heat 2, which might actually benefit him. And if he manages to keep that position without any form of incidents, might be able to take the jump on Familiaris. As we see the remainder of our drivers coming across the line, Luka Legovic finishing off the race as well. John Sparmers coming in 7th, not a bad position at all from him. And then obviously our Pro-Am winner coming in, John van Rensburg.
It is a close battle happening here. Doug Gerber and Jippie Simons on to the back of one another, with Paul Gerber, who started last, is suddenly on the back of them. And there's 2 corners to go. 3 cars fighting out. 14th, 15th, and 16th may have a change for position, as Jippie tries to carry the momentum through. Gets a little bit of a rough exit. Doug Gerber trying to get the drive. Will look to get in the slipstream side by side, but it looks like Jippie getting across the line ahead of Doe, who got bottled up right towards the end. The gap between them, 0.185, ladies and gentlemen. That is how close it is, and even though it was 2 different classes, that's enough to stay alive.
Definitely. I mean, 2/10 difference between between Jippie Simons and Doe Gerber. I mean, they're not even in the same division, and they're racing each other that hard. I mean, that just shows the level of competition in the RaceFace iRacing GT3 series. And I mean, we're looking now into Heat 2, and as we can see over there, Yuri Swart easily taking the win for Heat 1. Jason Coetzee rounding off in 2nd, Julian Familiaris in 3rd, Troy Dolenchik taking 4th, Werner Swart in 5th, Luka Legovic in 6th, John Sparmers in 7th, Noah Hendricks taking 8th, Mark Heron taking 9th, Muath Musa closing off the top 10 as we look into the rest of the leaderboard. But I mean, great results for top 10. Juan van Rensburg, this is now the Pro-Am, Juan van Rensburg, as we saw a major gap from the rest of the Pro-Am, finishing off in 1st. So I'm not too familiar what second place surname is.
Greg van Niekerk, followed by Doug Gerber, Stephen Kakebreg, Farney Gravenstein, Etienne Swart, Robbie Teens, Ryan van Wyk, Roland Ferreira, and Malcolm Pringle. And that's definitely the original Pringle, or maybe the salt and vinegar. Who knows? We'll find out. And
which one's better?
Well, salt and vinegar is actually pretty good, but very close to the top. Jippie Simons finishing up first of our Am class, Vanna Kursop in 2nd place, Willem Pinar, Paul Webber, and Mandalozi Gabashi running in 5th place. That being said, This is the end of Heat 1, so we are going to transition over to our Heat 2. Link is in the description. Feel free to click on it, and we'll see you heading into Heat 2 right here on RaceFace.Pro. Make sure you stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing our virtual grandstand moving over. So keep an eye on this bite size coming your way.